It's hard to think about how to make today beautiful, but I did want to show up because, so much of what we talk about at BYWD is about how to show up as your best self no matter what else is going on around you. And, one of the things that I did do this morning was I followed my morning ritual because I woke up, feeling a little depressed because of everything that's going on and just the weight of what's going on. And it would have been very easy to just stay in bed and check the news or stay in bed and read so that I could just, have a little escapism. Fires are actively burning in the Los Angeles County area, home to both Natascha and I, and it's a little surreal putting on a podcast in the midst of this, and so that's what I'm going to talk about on today's Harness the Power of Planning podcast. I'm going to talk about what it's like living in the middle of a crisis and how I am planning and doing emergency preparedness even in the midst of this, all on this episode, starting now. Hello. Happy Thursday. It is just me today because Natascha has been without power for 48 hours and I'm a little late because I wasn't even sure if I could get on. I don't know what was happening before, but here I am and it is January 9th, 2025. Welcome to the live broadcast of the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. And I guess I don't need these since I don't need headphones since Natascha isn't joining me. I don't have to hear what anyone else is saying. So if you did know, Natascha and I live in the Los Angeles area, and we have been impacted by the fires that are burning. I think there are right now 5 fires that are burning, and really it's hard to think about anything else when that's happening. So today's Harness the Power of Planning podcast will be about Emergency Preparedness Fire Edition. Now, if you listen to our podcast, then you know that I did do an emergency preparedness with a focus on earthquakes late last year. I'm sure if you just do a search, or I can put it in the show notes when I put this up later as a podcast. So I will link to that podcast if you're interested in it. And so today is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be about Emergency Preparedness Fire Edition. It's also going to be about my thoughts as I am in the middle of what's happening. You might notice that I don't have my earrings on. I don't have my yellow shirt. This is showing up as the best I can in a stressful situation. And that's a lot of what we talk about in Beyond Your Wildest Dreams is giving yourself the grace to go through whatever it is you're going through. And right now, this was the best I could do. So I'm going to talk about Emergency Preparedness Fire Edition. I did pack up our cars. We did evacuate my mother-in-law. We have been following the news closely. We do have friends who have lost their homes, and it is an ongoing, evolving situation. And so whatever I talk about today is going to reflect that. I'm going to officially start this podcast by pulling a card from this box of sayings that I keep on my desk that I just love. I find it very insightful and uplifting. And so today's card is one day at a time. This is enough. Live in the present and make it so beautiful that it will be worth remembering. Ida Scott Taylor. Yes, it's hard to think about how to make today beautiful, but I did want to show up because, so much of what we talk about at BYWD is about how to show up as your best self no matter what else is going on around you. And, one of the things that I did do this morning was I followed my morning ritual because I woke up, feeling a little depressed because of everything that's going on and just the weight of what's going on. And it would have been very easy to just stay in bed and check the news or stay in bed and read so that I could just, have a little escapism. But my morning ritual is what really keeps me grounded. And this is one of our 4 workbooks. You see, they're all short, they're all designed to be gone through in about an hour or less. And this is all about, it's called Rock Your Morning 3 Simple Steps to Take Control of Your Morning. I used to feel like my morning was a train heading towards me full speed, and I just had to like figure out how to survive the impact. And when I came up with a morning ritual, all of that shifted. And so today, even more important on a day like today, when there are crises all around you, it was very important for me to follow my morning ritual because my morning ritual just helps me feel grounded. It helps me feel like I'm taken care of. There's actually brain science behind the benefits of any kind of touch. So self-touching, putting things on my face is actually a way of, self-soothing. And so I knew immediately I was going to just go straight into my morning ritual. I have my warm lemon water. I did my dry brushing. I put everything away in the dish rack. Putting things away in your dish rack, Allegra, that's part of your morning ritual. Yes, it is, because I love the calm of how my kitchen looks when everything is put away. It doesn't last long, but for that moment, I get to take my morning supplements, sip my lemon water, and just kind of like, "Oh, it's clean in here. What a nice feeling." So, I guess that would be one of the things that I would say to you is that if you are in the middle of a crisis, remember to take care of yourself because no one can take care of you except you. And you're not thinking clearly if you're not taken care of, if you're not hydrated, if you're not fed. So we always go back to self-care. Self-care is healthcare. And so that was what I did this morning as we are in the midst of this. The other thing I did was I did check all of the apps. I am on the Citizen app. I'm on the Watch Duty app, which apparently I was told is the app that firefighters use. And so I have been looking at those and looking at where the fire is, where the evacuation orders are, who do I need to check in on in my extended family. Natascha and I have been in regular communication. She basically can only text and call. She has no internet. She has no electricity. My thoughts are with Natascha. She might be coming to my house at some point soon. Apparently, they went through all of their ice cream yesterday because they have no power, so they're eating the frozen stuff. Makes sense. So, in this emergency preparedness fire edition, what I want to say is something that I have been noticing from people who are going through this right now is people waiting to get the evacuation order before they leave their homes, or even waiting to get the evacuation order before they start packing up. And what I would say is that the best time to pack up is when you are calm. The evacuation order was nowhere near us. It was at least 12 miles away from us when I started packing up my house. And actually about, I don't know, 10 years ago, there was a fire that was about 20 miles away from us. But again, high winds are very uncertain. You just never know when there's going to be a gust. It only takes an ember to start a wildfire. And so about 10 years ago, there was a fire about 20 miles away, and I had packed up the car. So what I would say to you is perhaps reevaluate when you start moving and realize that the evacuation order is kind of like the finish line, but the marathon before that finish line is you starting to think about what you need to do. My grandmother is 100 years old and she is bedridden, and we are still about 12 to 15 miles away from an evacuation line, but we have started to think about what it would take to move my grandmother, because it would take really like an ambulance, or we'd have to, find a hospital to move her to. And when you have 5 fires going on simultaneously, your options are limited. So, yesterday, I started packing up. What did I pack? Photo albums that are irreplaceable. Uh, Creative work that I am working on, and I didn't wanna lose those notes. My daughter brought her sketchbook, her notebooks. Of course, we packed up our computers, jewelry, important documents such as passport, birth certificates, death certificates, deeds to the house, insurance information, all of that. I have all of that organized in a grab and go bag that is fire resistant. It's marketed as fireproof, but it's not fireproof. It's fire resistant, and the reason why I didn't get one of the big concrete, truly fire resistant containers for those documents is because those things weigh 50 pounds by themselves. And once you put in all this paper, because paper is very heavy, that's like a 70-pound thing that you have to carry around. So I opted for a lighter version that I can actually lift. Maybe you want to have two versions. Maybe you want to keep a fireproof safe somewhere on your property with one copy of the documents, and then you have a bag that you can take with you with another set of copy of the documents. And this bag is not very big. It's about I'm I'm doing portrait orientation right now, so I can't really use my hands to, but it probably measures about 15 inches wide by about 12 inches tall, and then maybe it's about 5 or 6 inches deep. So that has all of the important paperwork. Also, of course, prescription drugs, um, glasses or contact lenses if you wear them, and then the solutions to go with them. If you have pets, pet food, clothing, warm clothing. Maybe you wanna bring a pack of cards, some paper to write with, and some sort of writing implements, because if you are having to shelter somewhere, it's good to keep your mind active. Um, the other thing too is that I did pack food and water, because if you're going somewhere, you don't wanna show up and not have something to drink and eat. So I would say about 3 days supply of food if you can, and it doesn't have to be refrigerated food. It can be rice and beans and lentils and dry cereal, that sort of thing, which travels really well. It can also be, produce that doesn't need to be refrigerated, like fruits. So and nuts. So we packed everything in 2 rolling duffel bags that are quite large. They're kind of too big for luggage, but they're great for emergency preparedness, and they have handles and rollers, so if you have to roll them. And I also put in a tent and 3 sleeping bags in there in case, again, we're having to shelter somewhere, don't wanna have to rely on available bedding. We packed that up as well. And then we also brought with us our camping backpacks, which are always packed as our emergency preparedness bags, and these have things like, these were created for earthquake preparedness, but they have a lot of things in them that one would want in an emergency situation. Perhaps not if you're sheltering with friends or even at a physical shelter, but, worst case scenario, you're sheltering in a park. So things like water for purification tablets, they have, goggles and masks, which are really important in disaster situations because there's a lot of particulate in the air. No matter if it's a fire or an earthquake or a tsunami or whatever, there's dust and debris whipping around. You need to protect your eyes and your nose so that you can function. And so everything was packed up. Our car was packed up. We did unpack the car. I had to go through and actually get out like my glasses and prescription drugs and that sort of thing. However, everything is basically still packed and by the front door just in case, because at least one of the fires is still advancing kind of near us, and so it's a real situation. One other thing that we packed is a portable power station. We have this one that is showing up on the screen right now, the Jackery Power Station 1500. This is a fantastic power station. It's what we take with us camping. It is silent. It charges with solar panels, and it can run traditional household appliances. So that's one thing that I didn't know when I initially bought a power station, was that there are some that are not powerful enough to run your refrigerator. So I made sure to buy one that was powerful enough, and this one, the 1500, is powerful enough that you can just use standard household appliances. You don't have to use, like, a mini fridge or a mini stove or that sort of thing. So that's something to think about, and that's something that we pack, and this is pretty heavy. It does have its own wheelie cart that I have for it in case of an emergency, and so you might be thinking, "Wow, this sounds like a lot of stuff." It was a lot of stuff. It was basically each of us would have had a backpack, and each of us would have had a wheelie cart. So my child probably would have had the Jackery, the portable station wheelie cart, and my husband and I would have had the big duffel bag wheelie carts, but it would have been enough that we could have carried it if we did not have a car available, or if we were stuck in some sort of traffic, as many people unfortunately were. So, think about this now when you're not in a crisis situation. As I was saying to my neighbors who were surprised to see us packing up the car, I said, "I believe the best time to plan for a disaster is when you're calm, because then you're not going to forget things." And, like prescription drugs, my prescription drugs are hormone therapies. They're not keeping me alive. So it would be possible for me to forget it in an emergency. However, they do protect my heart and my brain and just make me function better on a daily basis. So I want those. So pack when you're calm, and you'll pack more strategically, if you will. And so, I would encourage you, if you haven't thought about emergency preparedness, to do some preparation. I personally find it calming to be prepared. Preparation is just another form of planning, right? And I have found that for me, planning makes everything easier. And actually, brain science has shown that planning helps reduce anxiety and stress. And I can tell you that I felt my anxiety level go way down as soon as our car was packed up. Oh, and I just see here, I do have a QR code for an emergency preparedness document that I did put together for BYWD listeners. It probably has an earthquake focus, but definitely it's a great base document for you to use. I wouldn't say I did anything radically different because this is a fire rather than an earthquake, except that I did grab our masks and our goggles sooner. Like yesterday, I did walk the dog with a mask on because the particulate in the air. Whereas, with an earthquake, you either need the mask or you don't need the mask. With a fire, there was a little more flexibility there. Um, Ready.gov is also a really good website to go to for emergency preparedness. So check that out if you haven't done it before. And definitely download some apps that will help you stay informed about any emergency situations going on in your area. I belong to a few of them. One that is specifically with regards to earthquakes in California. And then I also have Citizen and Watch Duty, as I mentioned earlier. And, get prepared when you don't need to get prepared. because that's the best time to do it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you and yours are safe. As Ida Scott Taylor said, make today beautiful in whatever way you can. And I hope that by thinking about your perfect recipe for your year, it will help to make today a little bit more beautiful for you. If you want to take your planning skills to the next level, consider taking the Harness the Power of Planning workshop. It's available on demand at tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand, all one word. That's tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. We'll show you how to plan your day, your week, your month, your year, your life, and help you to start prioritizing yourself and your goals right now. Dream wild, wild dreamers. Thanks for joining us for the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen.